The morning of June 4, 2025, dawned bright and unremarkable at Coca-Cola's Atlanta headquarters. The city was waking up, sunlight glinting off the glass towers, and inside the iconic building, the day began with a sense of normalcy and purpose. The building buzzed with routine. Executives gathered in boardrooms, marketing teams put the finishing touches on a summer campaign inspired by the classic American road trip, and finance analysts pored over spreadsheets, tracking commodity prices and market trends. The hum of conversation and the clatter of keyboards filled the air, as everyone focused on their roles in the company's well-oiled machine. At the center of it all were aluminum cans, symbols of both convenience and nostalgia, connecting generations of consumers to the familiar taste of Coca-Cola. These cans, rolling off the production lines by the millions, were more than just packaging. They were a vital part of the company's identity and its future plans. The company's strategies were carefully mapped out, the system running smoothly, and every department was aligned with the goal of growth. There was a sense of confidence in the air, a belief that the summer would bring record sales and new opportunities. Yet, beneath the surface, no one realized that the very object at the heart of their campaign, the humble aluminum can, was about to become the epicenter of a crisis that would test the company's resilience. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away in Pittsburgh, President Trump was preparing for a rally that would soon send shockwaves through the American economy, setting off a chain reaction that no one in Atlanta could have anticipated. For Coca-Cola employees, it was just another Tuesday, another day of meetings, deadlines, and coffee breaks, with no hint of the storm that was about to break. They had no idea that a single policy decision made far from their offices would soon upend their forecasts, disrupt their supply chains, and plunge the company into emergency mode, forcing everyone to adapt at a moment's notice. The calm before the storm was about to end, and the world of Coca-Cola was on the brink of dramatic change. The news didn't arrive at Coca-Cola with a carefully worded press release or a scheduled announcement. Instead, it crashed through the company's headquarters in Atlanta like a tidal wave, delivered by a relentless flood of alerts, pings, and breaking news banners lighting up every device in sight. President Trump had just doubled the tariff on imported aluminum to a staggering 50%, effective immediately, with no warning, no grace period, and no time to brace for impact. Disbelief swept through the executive floors, quickly morphing into panic as leaders realized the magnitude of what had just happened. There was no time to prepare, no contingency plan for a shock of this scale. CEO James Quincy's meeting was abruptly interrupted. The agenda, once focused on growth and innovation, was instantly abandoned as the room shifted into full-blown crisis mode. Department heads from finance, supply chain, marketing, and legal rushed in, their faces etched with concern. The company's top minds gathered, each bringing urgent questions and few answers. The building's usual calm dissolved into a storm of anxious energy. Phones rang off the hook, emails flew, and the air was thick with tension as employees tried to process the news. The numbers were catastrophic. The new tariff threatened to erase profit margins on every can sold in the U.S., turning a profitable business into a potential money pit overnight. Marketing budgets vanished in an instant, supply chains unraveled as costs soared, and finance teams stared at spreadsheets that now looked like black holes, swallowing up years of careful planning. There was no playbook for a tariff hike of this scale. The company's crisis manuals, built for recalls and PR disasters, offered no guidance for a threat this sudden and all-encompassing. Every option on the table was painful: raise prices and risk losing customers, cut costs and risk jobs, or absorb the losses and risk the company's future. Suddenly, the very survival of Coca-Cola was in question. The announcement from Pittsburgh had become more than just a business challenge. It was now an existential threat to an American icon, a company woven into the fabric of the nation. Coca-Cola, the company that sold optimism in a bottle, now faced a future clouded by uncertainty and immense financial pressure. The crisis wasn't just financial, it was personal for thousands of employees. The countdown to survival had begun, and every second would count in the fight to save an American legend. The aluminum can isn't just packaging for Coca-Cola, it's the backbone of its U.S. business. The entire supply chain, from production lines to logistics, is optimized for the can's lightweight, durable, and recyclable design. It's cheaper to transport than glass, more durable than plastic, and a staple of American culture. The can is part of the product's identity, from backyard barbecues to movie theaters. Any disruption to the aluminum supply chain hits the company's core. Coca-Cola buys massive quantities of sheet aluminum, and the new tariff applies directly to this raw material. With over 70% of U.S. beverage volume sold in cans, the company is exceptionally vulnerable. The tariff isn't just a financial headache, it's an operational nightmare. Changing the can would require a complete re-engineering of the business. Overnight, the hero of Coca-Cola's success became its greatest liability. CEO James Quincy faced two bad options: pass the cost to consumers with a 10 to 15% price hike, risking lost market share and alienating loyal customers, or absorb the cost, protecting prices but gutting profits and forcing layoffs, canceled campaigns, and halted investments. Neither path was sustainable. The likely outcome, a painful mix of both. Prices would rise, and deep internal cuts would follow. Consumers would pay more, employees would face job insecurity, and the company's future would be compromised. It wasn't a choice between good and bad, it was a choice between two terrible outcomes. The crisis forced Coca-Cola to share the pain with everyone. The company's iconic status offered no protection from economic reality. Everyone would lose something. Why not switch to glass or plastic? For Coca-Cola, it's not that simple. The entire U.S. supply chain is built for aluminum cans. Changing course would take years and billions of dollars. Glass is heavier, more fragile, and costly to transport, requiring a complete overhaul of manufacturing and distribution. Plastic, while already used for some products, isn't suitable for all beverages and would spark a PR backlash over environmental concerns. The machinery, trucks, and retail shelves are all designed for cans. A sudden pivot isn't flipping a switch, it's a logistical and financial nightmare. The company is locked into its current infrastructure. Switching materials would mean immense cost, operational chaos, and brand risk. In the face of the tariff, alternative packaging was a fantasy, not a solution. Coca-Cola had no quick escape. The can was both the problem and the trap. The tariff was introduced with the hope of revitalizing U.S. aluminum production, aiming to protect American jobs and industries. But the reality is stark. America currently produces only about a third of the aluminum it actually needs to keep its factories and businesses running. Despite the best intentions, domestic output has not kept pace with demand, leaving a significant gap that must be filled from elsewhere. To bridge this gap, the United States relies heavily on imports. Most of this aluminum comes from Canada, our closest trading partner, but significant amounts also arrive from countries like the United Arab Emirates, China, and South Korea. These global supply chains are essential for keeping American manufacturing moving. The new 50% tariff applies to all these imports, instantly raising costs for companies that depend on aluminum, like Coca-Cola, which has no domestic alternative for the quantities it needs. For many manufacturers, there simply isn't enough American aluminum to go around, no matter how much they want to buy local. Building new aluminum smelters in the U.S. is not a quick fix. It takes years of planning, permitting, and construction, not to mention billions of dollars in investment. Even if ground were broken today, these new facilities wouldn't be ready to help with the current crisis. Smelting aluminum is also extremely energy-intensive, requiring vast amounts of electricity. This raises not only environmental concerns but also questions about whether the U.S. power grid can support a rapid expansion of aluminum production. The result is a persistent supply-demand gap that leaves American manufacturers in a difficult, often impossible position. They're told to buy American, but there simply isn't enough American aluminum available to meet their needs. The tariff doesn't magically create new supply. Instead, it just makes the existing imports more expensive. This means higher costs for every company that relies on aluminum, from the largest corporations to small businesses. In effect, the tariff acts as a direct tax on U.S. manufacturing. It impacts a wide range of industries, from soda and food packaging to cars, airplanes, and even construction materials. The ripple effects are felt throughout the economy. The policy squeezes the entire supply chain, driving up expenses for businesses, and ultimately leading to higher prices for consumers at the store. Everyday Americans feel the impact in the form of more expensive goods. While the intention was to give a boost to domestic industry, the reality is that the cost is being paid by everyone else: workers, business owners, and families across the country. In the end, America's aluminum shortfall is a complex problem, one that tariffs alone simply can't fix. The tariff shockwave united fierce rivals. Coca-Cola and PepsiCo joined forces with beer brewers, automakers, and aerospace giants to fight the policy. Their message: this isn't just a tax on soda cans, it threatens jobs across American manufacturing. They argued the tariff would protect a few thousand smelting jobs but endanger tens of thousands downstream. The coalition painted a picture of higher prices, reduced demand and job losses far beyond the aluminum industry. Iconic American companies warned that the cure was worse than the disease. The business world spoke with one voice: the tariff would ripple through the entire economy. The aluminum tariff debate split the nation. Supporters called it patriotic, a way to rebuild industry and protect jobs. Critics warned it was a hidden tax, raising prices on everyday goods and hurting families. Studies showed previous tariffs cost more jobs than they saved. The cost of aluminum rises, and so does the price of soda, beer, soup, and cars, essentials for most Americans. The tariff becomes a regressive tax, hitting lower and middle-income households hardest. In the end, there's no such thing as a free tariff. The burden is shared by all. The crisis at Coca-Cola revealed a simple truth: everyone pays the price.